Back in 1984, the summer of 1984, I moved to the state of Washington from back east, and I guess a lot of people move here from back east, and a couple of weeks after I moved here, I was shocked to hear on the radio that Steve Goodman had passed away right here in Seattle at UW Hospital. And I just remember thinking about all the songs, the great songs that he wrote that I used to listen to, and was and still am a big fan of his myself. What's coming up now is going to be a kind of a tribute to him by Clay Eels and his 6, 9, and 10 friends at various times during the hour. And before I do that, I'm going to give kind of a general announcement. First of all, I want to welcome you to the narrative stage at Northwest Folk Life. It's brought to you by Cairo News Radio 710. We're really thankful to our sponsors. And our most important sponsors are you all. It's very important that you make your donation, your $10 donation, and maybe buy a button too, because that pays for 1/3 of the cost of this $3 million festival. It costs $3 million a year to put this thing on, and 1/3 of that comes from the individual little donations that you make. Got to thank a few other sponsors. Pilsner Workwell Beer, which if you're over 21 or older, or over 18 or older in Canada, you should enjoy responsibly. I guess if you're some other age, you can enjoy it irresponsibly. Seattle Sound Magazine. Just joking. Don't try this. Kids don't try this at home. Or even worse, don't try it somewhere else and try to drive home. Seattle Sound Magazine, a monthly magazine covering Seattle music and culture. Pick up a free copy at the KBCS table next to the Fisher Green stage. Dairy Gold, West Farm Foods, and the Got Milk Think About Your Milk mobile tour. They want to encourage you, tell you that you never outgrow your need for milk. And those are some of our sponsors, and we urge you to patronize them. So now I give you Clay Eels and 6, 9, or 10 of his friends with a tribute to Steve Goodman.
Hello, I'm Clay. You don't know how happy I am to be here. I've been sitting out there for 25 years or more. We're going to begin this with just a taste of the song that you all know so well. And believe me, we'll get around to the whole thing at the end. Take it away, Tom and Brian.
Riding on the city of New Orleans in a simple Monday morning. 15 cars, 15 restless rides, 3 conductors run by Saxon. All along the southbound Odyssey, train pulls up from Kankakee, rolls along past house, farm, field, past some trains that have no names, graveyards full of old black men, graveyards of the rusted automobiles. Singing good morning America, how are you? Join again. Say, don't you know I'm your native son? I'm the train they call the city of New Orleans. And I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done.
Folks, it's Tom Paula and Brian Gill. Please give them a hand. Gee, it's hard to stop that song in the middle. The way this is going to work today, you know, I just got back from 12 days in Chicago. This is my book. It just came out this last week. I had 6 events. I was on TV twice and 6 radio interviews. Some of you heard me this morning on KBCS. This is a huge thing in my life, but it's really a huge thing in so many other people's lives. This book has more than 1,000 sources as a biography of Goodman. And I've named more than 2,200 people in the acknowledgments. This really tells you the kind of guy Goodman was as a musician and as a human being. His mission in life was certainly not to be a hermit. It was to connect with people and to engage with people, to inspire people with the language of music, the emotions of music. And what you're going to see here, I'm going to be talking in between these musicians coming up and changing the mics and changing everything. I have the incredible good fortune of having so many friends who wanted to come and perform Goodman songs for you. And one thing I learned in Chicago, that an author reading goes a whole lot better if the author does a lot less reading, okay? When you do a book on a musician, you have to have some music when you're at an event like this. I need to acknowledge somebody right away, without whom this would not be possible. And she's hiding over here. Could you wave your hand? This is my wife, Meg. Please give her a round of applause. Any of you who have been through a major project know that something like this doesn't happen without some really special help. We're going to make this mostly music today, but what I'm going to do is tell you about some songs, and then you get to hear them. Then they'll all be Goodman songs. How many of you out here have heard Goodman perform in concert? Oh my, oh my. How many of you are familiar with Goodman's music? How many of you have heard a Goodman song sometime in the last year? All right, all right. Now, there are so many ways we could go with this, but the first person I wanted to introduce to do a full song today is the person who's really been my compatriot on this project from the very beginning. And by that I mean the very beginning. I met him online on a Steve Goodman list back in 1998. And I volunteered to come to Folk Life in the Folk Life of '98, 9 years ago, to videotape his Goodman sing-along down at the, what stage was that called? It was Back Porch Stage, I believe, down there on the north end of things. And wonderful things developed from that. The song that actually Ian Woofenden and his family are going to be doing a couple of songs for you. And one of the songs, I thought we should start with something upbeat. And we are in a political campaign season, as you well know. Goodman was a master of songwriting, a master craftsperson as a songwriter, and he could do romantic songs. I wooed my wife with his songs. I sent her tapes. His funny songs are the most laugh-out, funny, and serious at the same time songs you would ever want. And he also was a pretty fair political songwriter. And this song that they're about to do really was inspired by Goodman's trip on a train, a Harry Truman-like whistle-stop tour of Florida by Senator Edmund Muskie in 1972. Anybody remember this campaign of 1972? And there is a long and a little bit scatological story that goes along with this that you can find in the book. But I'm going to skip that because I want to read you a quote that Goodman had about politicians in general. He told this Ed Muskie story quite a bit, but at one point at the University of Minnesota coffee house, he was saying that it really didn't matter that it was Muskie he was going for, to play for. It was just a chance to get to meet the person. As he said, you know, typically you never get to meet a politician if you're campaigning for someone, but this was a chance to ride on the train for him. And he said, I figured I wouldn't blow the chance to unload how I felt about the war and all that crap on Edmund Muskie for all the money in the world. And he asked the audience to follow suit. He said, supposedly they represent us, so if you ever get a chance to meet one of these guys, don't just buck dance there. Get it off your chest. It's his problem. That's why he took the gig. Well, Ian Woofenden has taken the gig of playing the song inspired by his Muskie campaign trip, Election Year Rag.
Are we live here? Come on, baby, won't you take a chance? Papa's gonna show you a brand new dance. Shuffle on down, don't you be no drag, and do that election year right. You take 2 steps to the right, 2 steps to the left, stand in the middle and you hang on tight. Come on down now, don't you lag, and do that election year right. Jump on that old bandwagon, and here's what we're gonna do. We're going to the precinct committee, captain's house, and we'll start up some lame ducks too. Don't you cry, don't shed no tears. You know it only comes around every 4 years. I'm your dark horse and you're my name, and do that election year right. And if you feel like you need a scorecard, well, there's really no need to fuss. I'll tell you that the winner is always someone else, and the loser is always us. So take it to the east, shake it to the west, hand me down my bulletproof vest. Nobody's choice, it is anybody's guess. When you do that election, there ain't no selection. You do that election, you're right.
Thank you, Ian. From the left, we have Ryan, Ian, Claire, and Nora Woofenden, and this is only a part of their gang. They've been singing Goodman songs their whole life. We're going to keep them up here for one more that's a bit of a change of pace. This is on-the-fly music here. As I said before, one of Goodman's greatest strengths was writing romantic songs. And this is among the best known of Goodman's songs in that vein. And I want to just give you an idea from whence it came. Goodman, as many of you know, was diagnosed with leukemia at age 20. And for a while, he and his wife Nancy did not know, were advised not to try to have kids, and they adopted their first kid. But then came a time when they discovered at Sloan Kettering that it wasn't such a bad thing, that the leukemia was not going to be carried on, through the genes. And so Goodman had a kid with Nancy, their second child, and in the hospital he ran into a childhood friend, Johann Stepan Simic, and they hadn't seen each other for 15 years, and she was in the hospital delivering a baby. And Steve gave her a rose, and he walked up to her room, gave her the rose, and said, "Are you happy?" And Joanne says, "We don't usually talk about happiness. People don't ask. They're afraid to find out. But Steve, I am happy. My husband is a wonderful man, and nothing else matters." And Steve says, "Well, my wife Nancy just had a baby." And she says, "You must love her very much. Are you happy to be a dad?" Steve says, "It's so great that you could never know." And then Joanne says, "I'm glad to hear that, Steve. It's made me sad to see some people here in the hospital not so tickled to have a baby. It really is a gift to us, and it's a joy. There's nothing more wonderful than loving your spouse and being a parent." "Well," Steve said, "that's old-fashioned to me."
So, I'm more comfortable singing in my living room. So this isn't just my favorite Steve Goodman song, this is my favorite song. This is for my wife.